Class 12. Yesterday we covered up your chapter 2 up till Eysenck's theory, and today we will be continuing from psychodynamic theory, and we are doing the revision of chapter 2, self and personality. So psychodynamic approach was probably the most popular approach out of all the theories, and it was given by Sigmund Freud. Freud basically divided the level of consciousness into three parts. The first one was conscious, like I am giving the lecture to you, all of you. This is my conscious part working. Then there is pre-conscious, which is mental activity of which people may become aware only if they attend to it closely. If you are providing attention to something, that means it is pre-conscious. Or one more example can be like I have introduced the earlier done part beforehand, that is pre-conscious. Then there is the third and the most important part in the level of consciousness, which is called as unconscious part. Why unconscious is most important? Because Freud gave the analogy of an iceberg, like the conscious part is just the tip of the iceberg. The middle portion is the pre-conscious part, which actually works like a medium from conscious to unconscious and unconscious to conscious. And then the most of the part is covered under the unconscious area. Why unconscious? Because unconscious works as a storehouse of our repressed and suppressed memories, emotions and all other feelings which are not socially acceptable, or about which we cannot talk, or we cannot reveal anything to anybody. So that's why our unconscious part of the consciousness is very much important. Now, what does this unconscious do? This unconscious contains the information which is not socially acceptable. So time and again, this particular information, either in the indirect form or disguised in the form of socially acceptable notions, try to force itself into consciousness, so that the unresolved issues get resolved and the personality become perfect or complete in itself, and the person become a fully functioning person. Because if these issues are not resolved, the person tend to have certain kind of ego defense mechanisms against these irrational fears or irrational thoughts and desires. So Freud also gave a procedure of therapy which is called as psychoanalysis. That means analysis of psyche of a person. Psyche means mind, or functioning of a mind. Freud didn't talk about brain, as in brain is a physiological structure. He talked about mind as in a psychological construct. So under second heading, that is structure of personality, Freud talked about three basic structural elements of personality. First one is id, second one is ego, and the third one is superego. So what is id? Id is basically works on our unconscious motives. Means it is based on pleasure principle. Whether by hook or by crook, the person tries to attain gratification from different kind of activities or from satisfaction of his ideas. So this particular part is called as id. For example, the tantrums a child throw when his or her parents takes him to a mall and he wants to have a particular toy. So this is the id working in that particular child, because he says that I want that toy at any cost. Second one is ego. Ego is basically our conscious part, what we are doing, what we have to do, what is socially acceptable. That is all the conscious part working. The third one is superego. Superego works on morality principle. I have forgotten to tell you that ego works on the reality principle. In actual situation, what is going on, that is called as ego. The third part, which is superego generally works on morality principle. That means we must do this, we must respect our elders, we must follow the disciplinary rules of our school, we must perform the required duties, we must be a good citizen of our country. So the musts and should have, everything come under this superego part, because what is morally right is governed by the superego. So superego works on morality principle. Then Freud also assumed that it is energized by two instinctual forces. Instinctual forces means two basic forces. One is life instinct and other is death instinct. So the life instinct is called as libido, which provides energy or which activates your mechanism to perform different activities. And the death instinct is called, Eros. Life instinct was Eros and the death instinct was Thanatos. So Eros is very much important for providing life to you, and Thanatos is important for all the destructive works. Destructive works like we eat food, that is life giving food, or the energy provided to us by that particular food, that is called life instinct provided by the food. And the death instinct is like while we are in anger or while we are frustrated, we are not able to perform our regular functions or the duties required by the environment from us, then the death instinct is working, means Thanatos is at the play. Then there are various kinds of defense mechanism which are important for reducing anxiety by distorting the reality. How do the defense mechanism work? Like when your unconscious is at play, then certain irrational things or irrational thoughts or ideas come into your mind, and if that is not controlled by the conscious part and you are forced to work upon that, then our defense mechanism come into play. So some of the defense mechanism which are important for our ego defenses are, first one is repression. Repression is in which anxiety provoking behaviors or thoughts are totally dismissed by the unconscious. Means a thought like something you know that this must not be done and you did that. Like you have seen a 500 rupee note lying on the road and nobody is seeing, and you picked up that note and use that for your personal expenses, and you didn't tell anybody that I have picked, I had done this and this thing. So if this happens, then this memory will keep on coming into your ideas. This thing will keep on coming into your ideas and you will feel guilty. So to deal with that particular guilt, you have to repress that idea that I have done this and this thing wrongly. Second one is projection. Projection is basically when people project their own feelings onto others. Like if a person likes another person, and although they both are not interacting with each other, rather the person throw away this thing that, or keep on generating this rumor that that person likes me very much, even though they are not interacting with each other. This is projecting. Or sometimes in aggressive behavior also, if we project something onto other, like if the next person to us is angry, and we project this anger onto some another person, like he has told you this thing or that thing, that's why you are angry with me. So this is projection. Then denial. When a person totally, completely refuses any idea or which depicts reality, that means denial of reality. Like when somebody is suffering from a severe illness or a big kind of disease, and he is just not able to accept that, then that means the person is in a denial. Then there is reaction formation. A person defends himself or herself against anxiety by adopting different kind of behaviors which are opposite her true feelings. Often in movies we are shown that when a person is has to deal with the sudden shock, like someone close to you died, and or the person close to the hero or the heroine died, and then they react in a way which is not appropriate to the situation. Like on the death of somebody, they laugh out loud. So this thing is actually reaction formation to deal with that particular threatening information which we are not able to accept immediately. We form a kind of opposite reaction to it. There is rationalization, where the person try to rationalize or try to sugarcoat the things which are not actually very good, and this is called rationalization. Like when somebody gets less marks in a competition, or say in an exam, and the parents ask why did you score so low, the students says or answers that everybody was scoring low, that's why I was also given the low score, rather than accepting that I had not studied properly, that's why I have scored low. So this is rationalization, sugarcoating the reality. Then Freud gave stages of personality development, and under this there comes a 5-stage theory of personality. He gave 5 stages of psychological development as well as maturity. First one is oral stage. Oral means related to mouth. So general instinct of any newborn baby is to put things into his mouth. Whatever it takes to him, he keeps on putting things into mouth. So this is the oral stage. Everything is surrounded towards the oral sensation. If there is fixation in this particular stage, if the person is fixated at oral stage, then there are the things that he keep on the behavior of thumb sucking, biting, babbling, as well as other things. It can also lead to cigarette smoking while the person grows up as an adult. Then there is second, the anal stage. During this stage, all the sensations are surround towards the anus area, and 2 kind of personality develops during this particular stage. If the person is retaining in nature, that means if he try to retain the things, then he becomes a miser in his life. And if the person is not not retaining in nature, then he becomes an open-natured person. Third stage is phallic stage, and it basically involves Oedipus complex and Electra complex. Oedipus complex is where the male child experiences a kind of attachment towards his mother, and Electra complex is where the girl child feels very much safe and secure and happy while she is with her father. So these are 2 kind of complexes. Then there is latency stage. Latency is actually the playing stage. It is before puberty, and the person generally play during this stage. Last one is the genital stage, which is the stage of maturity, where all the person become physically fully functioning and mature in we expect him or her to be mature in a way. So these are the things. First I told you about fixation, and there is also one more concept of regression. Regression means going backward. Means sometimes you not behave in a way which is actually appropriate for your age. You behave in a certain manner which is below your physiological age. That is called regression, going backward. Okay. Freud was so important during that era that after Freudian, different kind of approaches that were developed were also called as post-Freudian approaches. So one of the most important out of these post-Freudian approaches was Carl Jung's theory. Jung gave a kind of theory about consciousness and unconscious, which was very much similar to Freud, but also has certain striking differences. So like Freud, Jung made a division between consciousness and unconsciousness. However, for Jung, the unconscious seemed to be even more important, as he de-emphasized the role of consciousness, and he divided the unconscious part into 2 different parts: the personal unconsciousness and the universal unconsciousness or collective unconsciousness, we can say. So the personal unconsciousness was actually the unconscious part which was described by Freud, which include our repressed and suppressed memories. The collective unconscious was actually the transpersonal, in a way that it was shared by all people all together. It contained not only man's human ancestral past but also his pre-human nature. So the racial memories or the ideas that we inherit from our parents, different kinds of ideas that mother nature or to serve the god or to serve the nation, such kind of ideas are actually collectively held by our unconscious, and these are passed on from generation to generation. Jung also talked about the archetypes. Archetypes constituted primordial images or universal thought forms, and he talked about different kind of such archetypes. The most important of them are, first one is persona. Persona is actually the unconscious part, and it takes the form of a mask and become our public personality. So Persona is actually our social identity or social personality, as we say it. Then there is anima. Anima is the femininity in men, and opposite of anima is animus, which is masculinity in women. So in this sense, we all are bisexual, containing both the masculine and feminine into ourselves. So he considered that all men can understand the feminine ideas, and all female can understand the masculine ideas of superiority and inferiority both as well. Then the next concept is shadow, which describes a darker side of our nature, and it contained the instincts that had been carried over from lower forms. Means the animals and the other instincts. It includes the sin, the devil, and the enemy. The last under this is self, which was perhaps the most important system of personality as given by Jung. It represented man's striving for unity and for the wholeness. It was symbolized by the mandala or magic circle, we call it. In a mature person, the self becomes the focal point of personality, and the self emerged from the unconscious to be partly conscious and partly unconscious. The center of entire personality structure is called the self. The religious experiences are a good example of how the self might be fulfilled. Then Jung also talked about two types of personality, extrovert and introvert, and we have already discussed this. Then there is psychic energy according to Jung, which includes the flow of our life instinct as told by the Freud. Then at last the contribution of Jung was the concept of self-actualization and development. Jung also forced the concept of self-actualization, that the goal of personality development was actually the actualization and fulfillment of self. This not only involved the differentiation of various systems within the individuation, but also a closing of or a harmony of all the different parts of our personality. I hope this would be clear to all of you, and in the next video we will be covering Karen Horney, Adler, Erich Fromm, Erik Erikson, and other approaches like behavioral and cultural approaches, and that way your chapter's revision will be complete. Thank you.